Hey guys, how you doing? This is Coach KEYON, also known as Mr. Finance, and I'm here to talk about how to create a stronger financial foundation. Now, when you talk about putting together a financial foundation, it requires you to understand a few things. You must take the time to learn about what is that you got to do. There's 4 things you must do when you're creating your financial foundation. Take notes. Number 1, you got to make sure that you have what's called proper protection. Number 2, you got to make sure that you definitely started learning how to manage your debt. And number 3, you got to make sure that you learn how to create an emergency fund. And number 4, you got to learn how to save and invest your money. That's what it looks like when you understand how to create what's called a proper and stronger financial foundation. Let me go in depth. The first thing you got to do is that you got to put together proper protection. Let me break it down. Proper protection requires you to understand that you got to plan for 3 events in your life. Number 1, you got to plan for death. Before you die, there's 4 things you need to put in place. Write this down. Number 1, you got to make sure that you have life insurance. And when you own life insurance, it's not because you're thinking about dying, it's because you're thinking about your dime. Now, your dime stands for debt, income, mortgage, and kids' education. So when you think about owning life insurance, you got to know what is your dime. Meaning you got to know how much coverage you need for life insurance when you calculate your debt. How much total debts do you have? What is your annual income? Multiplied by 10 if you have a dependency or a spouse. What is the balance on your mortgage? And what is the educational planning for your children? So that's when you think about how much a tuition is going to cost per child and multiply per each child. And that will tell you how much coverage you need. That's why you own life insurance. Now, when it comes to the second thing you need to have before you die is something called final expense insurance. Final expense insurance is important because unlike life insurance, your life insurance, like a whole life, term life, or universal life, will not pay out within 24 to 48 hours. It takes about 46 weeks for them to pay out the death benefit. But your final expense insurance is the one that pays out within 24 to 48 hours upon passing. So that's why it's important for you to have those things in place. Now, the third thing you need to have in place before you pass away, you need to have a will. And why it's important to have a will? You need to have all your wishes documented and it's written down. Also, you got to have a power of attorney as well. Who's going to be making decisions for you when you can't make it for yourself? So God forbid if you become unresponsive, what are some of the things you want them to do for you as far as reciprocate you or pull the plug? And then you need to have a trust. That's the 4th thing you need to have in place before you pass away. Now, the reason why you need to have a trust is to protect all your assets, like your bank account, your house, your car, jewelry. Anything that's an asset needs to have a trust to protect it. And then you got to know the difference between which trust works best for you, as far as is a revocable or an irrevocable trust is the best thing to protect your assets. An irrevocable trust is important because when you create this trust, you can't make any changes to it. Or a revocable trust is also important as well. So that way you can always make changes and add assets inside of trust. They call that trust funding or funding the trust. So these are some of the 4 things you need to have in place before you die. If you'd like to learn more, click the link below or actually comment.